Well, I am so excited for my guest today, Todd Budden. Did I say that right? Budden or Budden?
It's actually Budden. Sorry, I should have
Budden.
said that.
I said it the American way. Todd is
That's all
from
good.
Australia. It's 11 p.m. where he is, so I'm very grateful for you to be here today, Todd. If you have never experienced a sound bath, or if you love a good sound bath like me, you are going to really love today's episode. So, Todd has worked with sound for over 16 years. As a sound engineer, he has a deep understanding of the frequency of sound and how this can be used to impact us in our daily lives. After many years of meditation, exploring yoga, and dabbling in other spiritual practices, the penny dropped, and Todd combined his knowledge of sound and vibration with his passion for helping others. For the past 4 years, Todd has used sound and meditation to help guide people back to a place of peace and love within themselves, to experience their true nature so they can heal from within and navigate their daily lives with awareness, clarity, clear intention, and inspired action. Todd, I love that introduction. And am excited to explore how sound can do those things and create those ways of being in your life. So let's start by telling us what started you on this journey. What's your background?
All right. Well, first of all, hello. Thanks, Jerry. Thanks so much for having me on the podcast. Very grateful to be here. So, I actually started my sort of sound journey from a very sort of technical standpoint. I actually studied and became a sound engineer, as you said, and I started working in the sound industry. So I was working in film and television and radio and studios, working with musicians. I was a musician myself, and so I was very hands-on, very technical. And then I actually got the opportunity to go and be a lecturer at the college in which I'd studied at. And so I was teaching sound engineering. So then I was diving even deeper into the science behind it, the frequencies, what's going on. But it was always from the point of view of how to use sound in those more sort of formal, modern, technical kind of ways in recording studios and film and TV, etc. But then, sort of, as I got into this sound background in this sound engineering sort of role, I started to explore my own personal sort of spiritual path. I started to meditate, I started to do breath work, and I started to dabble in yoga and all these sorts of things. And then over the years, I got the chance to experience a sound journey, a sound bath. And I thought, this is fantastic because I know all about sound. I know what's happening with different frequencies and different instruments. And I had some knowledge and experience playing some of those different instruments too. And I went along and I had a great experience, and I did this a few times, and then I just carried on with my day-to-day life. And it wasn't until many years later that the penny dropped, and I just got this, I call it a swift kick in the butt from the universe to basically say, this is what you should be doing. And it just felt so right. It was such an intuitive nudge. It was beautiful. I literally, within a couple of weeks, I had accrued some more instruments. I had set myself up. I had started Mindful Vibrations, which is the name which I operate under, and I was already booked out for the next couple of months. I was collaborating with yoga studios to do yoga flows and sound immersions. I was doing private sessions, and it just sort of it just unfolded in such a beautiful, natural way, and it felt so effortless. And yeah, I just absolutely loved it and still do. And so it was really nice having that technical background and then moving into this, because when the time was right, when I was ready, it allowed me to really understand what I was doing and what I was bringing to these sessions from a deeper standpoint, not just the spiritual standpoint.
I love it when we get that nudge from the universe because I mean, you can say no, but you'll never be comfortable with what you're doing. And when you say yes, there's a reason that it worked out, right? So many of my guests have talked
Mm.
about that on their journey. They got the
Yeah.
nudge and it was time and everything just flowed. And I love your background. I love that you have the technical experience and you are a musician and you understand sound before you start, um, working with people in the healing space. I have heard a lot of people question sound baths they've been to. And the question is, I feel like
Mhm.
it's kind of some hippie that just bought some sound bowls off of Amazon and it was maybe a little odd, where I've been to some good ones by people who that's like totally their path.
Mhm.
And with you, it's even like a step above that because not only are you a musician and intuitive, but you like truly understand like technically what's happening
Mm.
at the same time. That's such a unique combination.
Yeah, no,
And
thank you. No, it is. It's really nice to have that understanding, but also to um, not get too caught up in the technical. To have that foundation, but to then be able to step away for that and just sort of tune in spiritually, energetically, and do all of that. But then, whenever I feel I need to look at the different frequencies or what it is that I'm bringing with different instruments and the sort of journey that I'm planning for a group in front of me, then I can obviously just tap back into that sort of knowledge when I need to, which is really nice.
yeah. So can you, for those listeners who have never done a sound bath or any type of sound healing, can you explain kind of what it is? What's the process? What type of instruments do you use? That
Yes,
sort of.
certainly. Yes, definitely. So, first of all, they go by many different names. Some people call it sound healing, some people call it sound bath, sound immersion, sound journey, sound meditation. They're all very similar, and of course, every sort of practitioner is going to have their own take and their own sort of way that they like to do that. But they do go under, well, by many different names. But essentially, I'm using a variety of different instruments, so things like Tibetan bowls, Native American style flutes, didgeridoo. I've got a 22-inch shamanic drum. I use chimes, shakers, my voice a lot. I absolutely love singing and chanting and being able to sing with my drum. I have this beautiful connection with my drum. I love singing with it. Um, Hand pan, all sorts of things, just all sorts of different instruments. And these instruments all have different frequencies, different sounds. And so I sort of create a journey where the participant is able to, usually laying down. Sometimes people do like to sit up, but most of the time people are laying down, as comfortable as they can be, with cushions and blankets and pillows, making sure that they are just in a really, really comfortable space. And then I'm using those sounds and those instruments, as well as my voice through guided meditation at the start, to be able to help people get into a deeply restful and receptive state, to a point where they are able to switch on that innate healing that the body has. The body, the mind, this human form we have is just so powerful. And unfortunately, we're so busy in our day-to-day lives that we just don't give ourselves enough time to be still and to be able to just let that innate healing sort of switch on, if you like, and put some sort of attention and some focus and some energy into that. And so I really just create this environment where people can have this deeply restful, healing, receptive state where they can then have that innate healing come through. And people will get moments of clarity and awareness around things that are happening in their life. Sometimes they just have a really, really deep and restful sleep. I've had people say, wow, that's like the best sleep I've had in 10 years. Or sometimes people are really shifting some tough stuff and they've got some things going on in their lives and they've got some tough emotions coming up and things like that. And so by using that, my intention, the meditation, the sound, the sort of environment that I'm creating, it's allowing them to be able to explore that in a real safe way and to be able to help sort of shift some of that stuck energy, some of those trapped emotions, whatever it may be, so that they can then have room for more of that peace and love and joy and all those wonderful things that we want in our life, so they can then be the best version of themselves that they can be for themselves, for their family, for their friends, whoever it may be. That's it in a nutshell.
I love that. And I love how healing ourselves always transfers to those around us. Like
100%.
like how you ended it. Like you're doing this for you, but it's healing your family, your kids, it's your relationships, just the
Yeah.
world around you. So many things. First of all, I love the didgeridoo. Oh my gosh. I think I've heard that that was the first, possibly the first instrument that may have been created. I love the sound of it.
Definitely one of. I mean, obviously, Indigenous Australians have been around for tens and tens of thousands of years. I think the only other instrument close to that was a type of flute that they found in some sort of burial site that they dated back, a very long time. But yeah, it is certainly an ancient instrument. It's certainly an instrument that has a lot of power and a lot of sort of wisdom and healing that can come through from that instrument. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of the instruments that you're using are they do have a lot of history.
Mm.
I mean, every instrument, comes from somewhere, but there's so much history there. And I can't help but think I have this philosophy, and I don't, it's not scientific by any means, but I have this belief that when humans originally were formed, we were much more energetic and we've become more solid and heavy
Mm-hmm,
today.
mm-hmm,
And I think um, these ancient instruments somehow speak to that really, I don't know, origins or original form of us. Like,
mm-hmm.
our original energy, the maybe the energy of creation or something seems to come through.
Yeah, I mean, sound in itself has been here since the dawn of time. I mean, they talk about the sound of the Big Bang being that Om sound, and
Yeah.
obviously I can't say whether or not that's
So
true, but
right. It's just
but but we know that
their
sound has, yeah,
thoughts.
sound has been here since the dawn of time, and it's been used in so many profound ways. And unfortunately, in um, this modern world, sound sort of has become more like noise. There's so much traffic and there's so much heightened emotion and fear and all these different things, and so a lot of the sound has just become noise and clutter, and whereas sound can be such a beautiful thing that we can use in such a powerful way to help us find that clarity and awareness and stillness, and shift these things, and also just to experience joy and happiness and love and all these wonderful things in our life. Sound, including music, obviously, is so powerful at doing this.
I heard a guided meditation that said, just listen to all the sounds that you hear while you're meditating and
Mm-hmm.
imagine that they're music, that they're part of a song.
Yeah.
And I love doing that because sometimes I'll be meditating and I'll hear my kids, laughing or screaming at each other. I'm like, oh, it's just a beautiful song. And it is really. I have found along my journey, just of healing and growth that I've become much more um, specific, much more picky about the sound that I allow in my
Mm-hmm.
world.
Yeah.
The music we listen to has changed,
Mm-hmm.
um, for sure. We don't watch the news. I mean, all of those things are sounds, like you said, that have become kind of more noise
Mm.
and fights for our attention in not a good way.
Yeah. No, definitely,
So
I agree with that.
yeah, what you're doing is that complete opposite of that. So we talked about this off camera. When
Mm-hmm.
I first did a sound bath, the frequency of the bowls, the sound bowls was
Mm-hmm.
intense for me, and I really struggled with it. And then more recently at the ladies retreat that I host every January, we had a gong bath. So the only
Mm-hmm.
instrument was the gong, which is amazing how many different sounds a gong can
Mm-hmm.
make. But we had a couple ladies who really struggled with the intensity of the frequency of the gong. Can
Mm-hmm.
you speak about that a little bit? What's going on there?
Yeah, certainly. So I've had the same sort of experience personally, and also from people that have come along to my sessions when I've been using gongs or when I've been using the drum. The drum is definitely a common one because it's such a grounding, powerful instrument that it really does sort of force people to just be present and to deal with stuff. You know, if you've
Mm,
got something going on in your
yeah.
life, the drum's probably going to help bring it up. But essentially, what happens is we sometimes when we have these things happening, and we might not always be conscious of exactly what it is. We might go to one of these, a sound journey like I run, and we might be like, yeah, everything's good, everything's fine, and I'm relaxed. And then halfway through, all of a sudden, an instrument starts being played, like you said, like with the gong with those ladies or the bowl for yourself. And all of a sudden we just want to get up and run away, and we want to resist and push back, and there's this tension in the body and the mind, and we can't sort of relax into the moment. And essentially what it is, these sounds, these vibrations are just stirring things up for us. And it's obviously important that we're in a space that we feel comfortable, that we feel safe, that we feel is a loving space, whether that's in our own home or at a session with a practitioner like myself, where we can actually then sort of allow these things to come through, where we can take time to feel into these things, where we can sort of take that third person perspective and go, okay, hang on, this sounds making me feel really uncomfortable right now. Let's just sit with that for a little bit and just see what comes from it. And honestly, I would almost guarantee you, when you sit with these things for long enough and you take that third person perspective and you allow them to sort of come to the surface, you gain so much clarity and awareness around what it is. And it might not be the first time these things come up. You might sort of, need to revisit it in the coming days after that and do a bit more breathing, maybe a bit of meditation, whatever it is. But these things come through. They give us a bit of clarity and awareness around what it is, why it is. Oh, that's that thing I need to talk to my partner about that's been just weighing on the back of my mind for the last 4 months that I keep just pushing to the side, or that's that issue I have with someone at work, or whatever it may be. We allow those things to come through, and then we can get some wisdom from that. We can get some understanding, and we can allow then the sounds along with our breath. Our breath is such a powerful anchor, especially in these type of sessions in this work. And we can allow our breath and the sounds to help just wash away and let go of some of this stagnant sort of energy and this sort of stuckness we feel around these things. And then, of course, the beautiful thing with that is that not only do we shift that, but then we can integrate that into ourselves as who we are, and becoming an even better version of ourselves, when we all of a sudden realize, oh, that thing made me angry because of X, Y, and Z. Now I understand a bit more about myself. Now I can look at that situation a little more differently. I can work through that. And now, great, I feel better. I can move on. And then we can be one step closer to sort of reaching that true potential of who we are. So it is an interesting, and also I will just add that people have come along to sessions of mine, and it's been multiple nights in a row, and they have said on one night, I absolutely love the drum. Oh, it's amazing. The next night, I couldn't stand the drum tonight. Oh my goodness, I just wanted to resist and I just wanted to push away because for whatever reason, something else is coming up for them that they need to perhaps spend a little bit of time with, get a bit of clarity around, and then obviously, like I said, move through it and move on from there.
It's so beautiful how, like what you said, have something come up for you and take a third person perspective and really
Mm.
look at it instead of just keep shoving it down.
Mm-hmm.
And the beautiful part to me is you mentioned sound and breath, two things that are so natural to us.
Mm-hmm.
They're constantly in our lives, and we have no idea the power that they hold when you have a conscious intention, like a focus
Yeah.
on those two things. Like most people would be like, that's ridiculous. We breathe all the time. We hear things all the time. And then when you experience it, people don't they always like, wow, I had no idea.
Mm.
I'm sure you get that all the time.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, I one comment that comes to mind. I had a session only 2-3 months ago, And a woman came up to me at the end and she said, look, she said, when I came into this session today, and whenever I do the guided meditation at the start, I always start by getting people to just tune in to their breath and to their body, just sort of shifting that gaze from their external world to their internal world. And when they do that, I always say, don't try and change anything yet. Just take some time to notice where the breath's at. Does it flow with ease in and out of the body? Is there any tension anywhere when you're breathing? Is there any tension in the body? And just to take some time to sort of switch on that sort of awareness muscle and gain a bit more understanding of where you're at. And anyway, this lady at the end of the session, she said, when I arrived at the start, she said, I noticed that my breath was short, it was shallow, and there was a lot of tension. And she said, I could feel it. It was up here around my throat. And she said, as we flowed through the session, I just noticed my breath just let go and relax. And she said, now it's just flowing with such ease in and out of the body. And she said, it's just so deep and flowing and beautiful. And obviously that has a massive impact on our central nervous system, on the way we respond to things, on how we feel, and all of the different hormones and all the things that are going on inside the body. So there's incredible knock-on effects there as well. So yeah, it is a sort of simple but very profound thing when we understand that with the breath and also with the sound as well.
Yeah. And when we take our focus off of the everyday, like the things that seem to be screaming at us and so intense, and move that focus to
Yeah.
like, somewhere else, it gives the space to be able to see a different perspective or to
Mm-hmm.
release. So you talked about releasing in your body and how that is so good for your central nervous system and even your hormones. That's another question. I think a lot of people might struggle with how can sound heal you physically,
Mm-hmm.
but there's a lot of evidence that it does. Can you talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah, sure. So, first of all, most of the healing is happening in you. You are doing most of the healing. So, like I said, I'm sort of providing the perfect space and the environment with the sounds, with my intention to be able to create a space and a time when you can get into a really, really deep, restful and receptive state. So that your brain waves are shifting right down into sort of that theta state, even delta sometimes, where you can get into that regenerative healing sort of state. The body has time and space to be able to sort of switch on that healing, put its energy and focus into healing, and especially if people have physical things they're working through, and put a lot of focus onto that. So whilst there is definitely a lot of science and a lot of amazing things that have come out over the years to prove that we can actually directly heal cells in the body through vibrational therapy, and of course that includes sound, because sound is vibration, everything's vibration. Um, a majority of the healing is coming from within you. So a lot of people might think, oh, it's some sort of woo-woo, like magical weird thing, and it's not. It's something that we all have the power to do. Our bodies are absolutely amazing. They want to be in a healthy, healed state. They want to be in a state of balance and health and abundance. And of course, we unfortunately get in our own way most of the time. And we get so caught up with all those layers of life of, all the feelings and the thoughts and the experiences and the struggles and money and relationships and whatever it is. And we rarely give ourselves the time to just be so still that the body can actually say, "Ooh, some peace. Now I can deal with some stuff." And so these
Yeah.
sessions allow people to really get into that state. But like I said, there is actually some direct healing going on as well. And there's a lot of amazing research and studies going on out there that has been going on for quite some time, showing how they can apply specific vibrations to cells in the body, even to target things like cancer and various other bigger problems in the world. So,
I was just
so
going to say
it's
that
very
I've
powerful.
I've seen studies about healing cancer with
Mm,
sound and vibration. And you're so right. Our bodies they want to be healthy. They want to be in balance. They're constantly working
mm,
to keep us alive. I mean, I was literally before this meeting just talking about people that I know who are functional alcoholics and yet they're like, living pretty long, healthy lives. Like their
Mm,
bodies want to work correctly. And we just don't always give them the space and the environment, like you're saying, to be
yeah.
able to do that. If we're constantly worried about something and having anxiety, then all of our adrenal hormones are going towards that when they need to be calm so that they can focus
Mm,
on whatever it is, the back pain, the potential cancer that's forming. And so that's fascinating. I love that what can seem like a nice relaxing nap, like you said, is actually doing all of these other amazing things at the same time.
mm.
It's fascinating to me. And it's so
Yeah.
it's so much more enjoyable than going to the doctor or even a therapist.
Well, it's yeah, and it's funny you should say that because a lot of people have said, and I agree, that things like sound healing is really one of the sort of modalities that are the future of medicine, the future of healing. And I like to also say that they were the past as well, because these are not new things, obviously.
Yeah.
Meditation and yoga and sound and all these different things, they've been around for thousands of years. And a lot of that sort of knowledge was lost or perhaps even squashed and pushed aside from modern society, and it was almost taboo at times, and a lot of that thankfully has come back around, and so
Yeah.
many people over the last few decades and more have switched on to, well, hang on, now we can actually use modern science to prove that thing that's been happening for thousands of years in certain countries around the world is actually really beneficial, and that has amazing benefits. And so whilst there's still a lot of people out there that might not consider it to be on par with a lot of other medicine and healing, there are many thousands, millions of people that know that it's that powerful. And it might
Mhm.
seem fairly simple, but keeping it simple is a great great approach.
Yeah, I would encourage those people to look at the research and experience it themselves and just be open to see what happens because you used the word that it was lost, that the healing knowledge was lost. That was the exact word that came up for me. But
Mm,
the truth is never lost. Truth
true.
is always underlying and it comes back at some
Mm,
point, and that's what seems to be happening right now. And we learn, in elementary school that nothing is actually solid. Everything is particles that are vibrating at
mm-hmm.
certain frequencies that we perceive
Yeah.
as solid. That concept alone is just, I could talk about that for weeks probably. It's fascinating.
It
But if
is.
we really realize that that is true, that's been proven, then it's vibration. You
Mm,
know, everything's vibration. And so if you put in good vibration, healing vibration, things start to realign the way that they're supposed to be. So my question is, how can people take this into their daily lives? Like, for example, I mentioned that I've become super careful about what we listen to because
mm,
I believe that everything is frequency and I don't want the
mm,
negative. And I'm super sensitive, like the music that's on the radio and the music that's popular. Oh my goodness, I can be so sensitive. Like, why are you listening to that?
yeah. Yeah.
And it does not resonate with me anymore. So how do you encourage people to take this into their daily lives?
Yeah, definitely. Well, just quickly to add on to what you're saying there, I know exactly what you mean because interesting story. When I was sound engineer prior to getting into the sound as a healing tool, I was the director of audio for the largest TV network here,
Mm.
and I ran all the audio, I ran everything. And I worked there. I only worked there for about a year. It was a good job, but like you, I didn't watch the news. I didn't even own a TV at the time. And people used to come up and say, "Oh, did you see that audio thing you did and that thing? And great job on that." And I said, "No, I haven't seen it." And they said, "Why not?" And I said, "I don't watch the news." I said, how can you not watch the news? You work for the news. You're in charge of the sound on the news. I said, look, I like the technical aspect of working with sound in this arena. It's great fun. It's challenging. It's great. I said, but I don't want to watch the news. I said, it's there's quite a bit of fear and negative things, and it's not the right frequency that I want to be tuning into,
Mm.
quite literally. And anyway, so yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from with that. But as far as people getting sound into their daily life, now you don't have to, have a 22-inch shamanic drum. You don't have to have a seven chakra set of crystal quartz singing bowls or anything like that. You can, and that's absolutely wonderful if you want to explore that. But sound can be simple. For example, getting out in nature. When we get out in nature and we listen to bird song and we listen to the beautiful sounds that nature has, obviously we get so many other benefits of being in nature as opposed to being inside, being around, Wi-Fi and closed in, no sunlight, all that sort of stuff. But when we get out and we actually listen to nature, we listen to the birds, the waterfalls, we start to hear this beautiful, like you said earlier, this beautiful song that comes through, and they've actually shown that the sort of frequency range that birds sit in with their calls is actually very pleasant to our brain, and it actually gives us some really beautiful sort of chemicals in the brain that make us feel good. And
Oh, wow.
apart from the odd squawk or something, we generally hear birds and we think that sounds lovely. We don't have to think too much more than that about it. But so spending time in nature is a great way of being able to just connect with sound. Going for a walk outside and just listen, just be mindful. Just spend some time sitting at a local park on the bench or in the garden or just anywhere that you can that's convenient that's for you, and just tune in. And you'll notice that when you do, you're pulling yourself into that present moment. So all of a sudden, you're not worrying about things. You're not thinking about what's happening later. And then you might even start to get some of these little intuitive nudges or little bit of clarity comes through about something that you've been thinking about recently. And then you go, oh, that's that thing. Oh, yeah, I might try that actually. And you start to get these things come through. And it's the same for almost any sounds, really. Like I said, it doesn't have to be special. My partner and I actually go out to schools, and she's a teacher, and we teach kids all about how their mind and their brain works. And a part of that is using sound and mindfulness and meditation. And we actually do a mindful activity where we have a bunch of different instruments, and we get the kids to close their eyes and to just be mindful and listen to all the things they can hear. And at the end, we ask them, how many of you were worried about what happened this morning? And none of them put their hand up. How many of you were thinking about lunch or recess after this? And none of them put their hand up. And they all can tell you exactly all the things they heard. They can tell you all of the sounds, what they sounded like, perhaps what they felt like, all these different things, because it's just such a simple way of pulling you into that present moment. Now, of course, you can use lots of other tools. You can listen to binaural beats. You can listen to just enjoyable, happy music. Get more music into your life each day when you're getting ready for work or you're driving to pick up the kids from school. That's pretty straightforward, and we obviously all like our own kind of music. But it
Mhm.
doesn't have to be too complex. You can keep it pretty simple.
It is. I do find that, my whole family laughs when my music comes on the Bluetooth. It's meditation music.
Yeah, yeah,
But they have songs too that are happy and fun, and it gets us all in a different, in a good mood.
mm,
So yeah, I agree. It can be so simple. It's just paying attention to it and being
that's it.
aware of what we're putting in, right? Have you
Yeah.
seen, I saw a video, this might have been a year ago, where they had recorded um crickets and
Hmm.
frogs, just like an outside noise at night, and then they slowed it way down and it sounds like a symphony. It was
Mm,
so beautiful. It almost brought tears to me. And, it's just an example of like us humans, we hear a certain spectrum of the sound spectrum. And that doesn't, and nature is
hmm.
on all these, there's such a wide spectrum that they're on, but it all resonates.
That's it. Yeah. I actually am fortunate enough to hire another space that I use. This lady's got a wonderful dome set up, and she's got gongs and other instruments. And just outside her space, she has this little sort of pond area, and it's always so many frogs there. And some nights the frogs are in such there's so much energy coming from them that whilst I'm playing the different sounds, the frog sound is just coming through, and it's just pulsing through on this beautiful bed underneath the different sounds that I'm playing. And it really does. It adds to the experience. It's really beautiful.
Wow, that would be incredible. If somebody is new to all things spiritual,
Mm.
or as you said, a little wooey, um, what's the best place for them to start with this?
All right, so I've, like many people that have been on this path for a while, I've done meditation, done the yoga, the breath work, all these different types of things. Obviously, the sound healing, that sort of thing. And I definitely recommend people try all these different things, because obviously we all have our own thing that we sort of click with and connect with. But when it comes to first getting into this sort of thing, I think the key really is to keep it simple, to just take time to be still, to shift your awareness from your external world to your internal world, whether that's through a formal meditation or literally just sitting down somewhere quiet and peaceful in your home or in your garden, and just closing your eyes and just breathing and
Mm.
just being still. Because what happens is we start to learn a lot about ourselves when we do find that stillness. For example, some people will find that they'll do that, and after 2 minutes they think, well, this is hard because my mind's all over the place and I can't just be still, I can't just switch it off. And so they sort of get an understanding of where they're at, and that's totally fine. The goal with meditation and many of these things is not to have an empty mind at
Mhm.
all. Thoughts come and go. It's really just about being able to surrender to that present moment and to let those thoughts pass, to let those feelings come up, and just see them for what they are and learn, and then let them pass. So we really need to have time to be still. And when we do this as well, we start to peel back some of those layers. Like I mentioned before, we start to sort of not be thinking about the experiences we've had, or the past or the present, and we sort of pull back from the feelings and the thoughts, and we get back to this sort of blank canvas. And for me, that is essentially our being. Some people like to call it soul, spirit, consciousness. Some people call it God. Whatever words you like to use is totally fine. For me, I just call it our being. And this is something that at its core, I believe, is loving and peaceful and still and aware. And it's not about sort of finding that. It's always there. It's underlying as this beautiful foundation that we have throughout our whole life here as a human. But it's just about taking time to be still so that we can peel back those layers and we can remember that it's there. And when we
Yeah.
do, that's when so many times that I've just sat in stillness, and within moments I just feel just like a blank canvas. And I mean that in a positive way. I mean, all of a sudden there's no, sort of judgment of others drops, judgment of yourself. Those feelings, those things that might be triggering you in different experiences in your life, all of a sudden they're not important. And you just sit there and you just feel this overwhelming sense of peacefulness and
Yeah.
stillness. And then from there, the more you can be in that place, and then you can start to bring that awareness into your life. Imagine how beautiful that would be if every day we could show up to our partners and our kids and our relationships and our colleagues from that place of just pure peace and love and non-judgment and all these wonderful things from our being. All of a sudden, just yeah, what a beautiful world to be in. So
Ah,
so
that's
yeah,
what I was
keep it
just
simple.
thinking. So beautiful. So beautiful. You're so right. So, Todd, if somebody would like to experience a sound bath, but from the comfort of their own home, I know that you
Mm.
are offering online sessions now. Can you tell us about that, and how can somebody connect with you for that?
Yeah, certainly. So essentially, I've been, as you mentioned at the start, I've been working with sound as a sort of as a healing tool, as a medicine for about 4 years now, doing a lot of face-to-face group sessions. I usually have around sort of 20 people in a room. I don't like to mic up any of the instruments. I like to keep it raw. It's just me, it's the sounds, the people experiencing those sounds. But I found that a lot of people were asking me at the end of my sessions, they said, do you have recordings? Do you have online versions? I had one lady, because I come and go from Perth in Western Australia, where I am, to my home in Albany. And I have family here, but it's about a 5-hour drive. And so I'm sort of, each month I'm back and forth. And this lady said, she messaged me, and I hadn't been up for a few weeks. And she said, when are you coming up next? She said, I don't want to listen to any or do any other sound healing. I just want to experience your sound healing. And I said, thank you. That's very, very kind. But I decided, because people were asking, to start and to create these online experiences so that people could stay more consistent with this practice of being still, of being present, of allowing yourself to go within and to get this sort of clarity and awareness and shift these things. And so thankfully, with my technical background, it wasn't a problem at all, because I've already had the microphones and the equipment and all those sorts of things. And so I've set up this online sort of membership space where people can tune in. I do 2 live sound baths, or sound journeys as I call them, each month. And that's using all those various different instruments I mentioned before. But then I also do a sort of special session each month as well. So the other day I did a 40-minute shamanic drum journey, where I did a drumming journey, helping people, guide them to create their own internal visualized space that's theirs. So I guided them to this place where they could then go there whenever they needed to be still. They could close their eyes and they could see themselves in this space, and this space was theirs and theirs alone, where they could then just feel at peace and they could gain this wisdom and all these wonderful things. And so I like to do these sort of special sessions, if you like, and it's just whatever I feel called to do, different instruments that I want to use and different intentions that I have. So the best place to find out more about that and pretty much everything else that I do is to go to my website. It's mindfulvibrations.com.au, and you can see a bit about me and the sessions that I have, and there's a little membership tab at the top. People can click that. But they can also find me on all the social media stuff. It's just at Mindful Vibrations WA, and people can jump on there. And I always post little snippets of videos from my sessions, so people can get a bit of an understanding about what it looks like, what it sounds like. And of course, anyone who's seeing this is more than welcome to send me a message if you have any questions. If you're curious about giving this a shot, even if it's not with me because you're in a different country or a different state and you want to go and experience it face to face with someone, then feel free to shoot us a message and just ask us a question. The one thing I always say to people is go in with an open mind and an open heart. Allow yourself to experience what you're supposed to experience. Sometimes we go to these things with a preconceived idea of what should happen, and then that's when we get a lot of that resistance, because we're trying to experience something that someone else said we should, or that we got an experience last time, and we don't allow things to just be. We don't allow it to just flow. So yeah, it's definitely a good idea to keep that open mind and that open heart. But yeah, more than happy for people to reach out and get in touch. I like to talk, as you can probably tell. I'm always up for a chat, so it's all good.
That's awesome. Thank you for being willing. And then, like you said, a lot of my listeners are going to be in the US, which is halfway across the world from you. Do you record the live sessions so that
Oh
we can
yes, yes.
listen later? Okay.
Yes, sorry, I
Great.
should have pointed that out. Yes, so I
No,
do. I have a little back catalog, so when you join up, you can jump back. And the good thing about that as well is that if you really resonate with a particular guided meditation at the start, so it might be focused on gratitude, it might be focused on peace or stillness, then you can go back and you can listen as many times as you want.
Oh, that's
So people
wonderful.
can use this as a consistent practice that they can do each day or each week or whatever sort of suits them in their own timing. Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, before I let you go, I have 2 questions that I ask every guest. And the first one is, do you have a book that you recommend? that you would
Mm.
recommend for our readers?
Ooh, that's a good question.
And it doesn't have to be, this exact topic, just something that has benefited you along your journey.
Mm, mm. You know, it's funny actually. I was at a friend's house yesterday, and he's a big reader, and was showing us the book collection, and I saw Paulo Coelho's book, The Alchemist, on
Mm,
his shelf, and I said that's one of the first books that I read, and I loved reading that book like early on in my sort of journey and to all of
mhm.
this, and I just thought it was a beautiful book. So I feel like that's a good one to mention. But there is another one if anyone's interested. Well, there's a couple more actually. There's one by, I believe it's James Nestor, that's called Breath or Breathe. It's a really good book about some of the science behind breathing, and it's got some wonderful stories in there. And there's another one called The Art of Drumming, which I read recently. Unfortunately, I can't remember the author for that one. It's on my bedside, so I probably should. But that's a wonderful book, and that dives into a lot more of the of drumming, the lineage of shamanic drumming, but also how it's used in today in a lot of sound therapy, helping students and children, especially those that are perhaps on the spectrum or have sort of learning difficulties, and how the use of the drum and different sounds is helping them to communicate and to be able to learn more effectively. And like I said, that sort of crosses over a lot in what I do with my partner as well.
Yeah. Wow, that's interesting. I would love to read those. And I have read The Alchemist. That's a very good recommendation.
Yeah, it's a cool
Um,
book.
and then let's end the last question that I have for you today, Todd, is what is one thing that you wish the entire world knew?
Mm, that's a good question. One thing. I think that I think that the most important thing that I think that everyone needs to know is that they have that power within themselves to take control over their own health and happiness, and over their own success and abundance in life. And I know that there's so many different things out there nowadays. You go online and there's so many ways to be successful, ways to be happy, ways to be this, ways to be that. But like I said earlier and said a few times, if we just keep it simple and we just take time to be still and to remember that being that we have within us that is peaceful and loving and aware. And if, like I said, if you spend time there, I'm not just making up those words, you'll come to that conclusion
Yeah,
yourself. You'll actually
yeah.
get to that point where you go, wow, it is still, it is peaceful, it is aware, it is loving, you know. So I think that when people spend time in that space, they get that clarity, and then they realize that they have so much power to be able to then move forward. And like I said, in the bio that you shared, then they can live their life from a place of clarity and awareness and inspired action, and actually move forward with some intention, and not just sort of floating around and getting caught up in all of the noise, so to speak, of what's happening in their lives. So yeah, that would be, I think, the main point.
I love that. And I just want to second that. I think some
Mm,
people can easily say, well, if you can do that, but I can't do that, depending on where they're at in life or
mm,
what their background or, how the trauma that they've faced in life. And the truth is, you can. And it's really
mm.
just finding that quiet space and like you said earlier, remembering that it's there and being willing to allow it to come forth.
That's it. Yeah, and it's not about sort of pushing aside people's struggles and challenges. Everyone's got their things that they deal with in life, and but it is, we can acknowledge that, and then we can say, okay, now let's step out of that sort of victim mode as much as we possibly can, and let's go within, and let's find that peace within ourselves, and with peace with others, and let's move forward with that intention. So it is a simple but very powerful thing.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for this today, Todd. I've really appreciated getting to know you and sharing your information with our audience. And I'm sure you're going to have some people reaching out to you soon.
No worries. Thanks, Jeri. I really appreciate your time and yeah, wish you all the best.
Thank you.